Hello, my friend.
How are you doing there?
Yeah, you look in a very professional background. It was, yeah, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's difficult times that we're living in, but hey, we we need to find a way of you know succeeding even in these difficult times.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, listening to your presentation, I'm grateful of all the insights you gave away because a lot of my questions were sort of leaning towards how did you do it and what did you do?
Hmm.
And I think that you sort of approached it in a really interesting way. But I think one of the things that people don't realize about you, maybe there's two things that really stand out for me. Number one is that when you took Altron on as a project, is that their share price since taking them on in 3 years has gone up 300%. So the market, and that's even with COVID. I mean,
Yes.
so the market is seeing that you have not just transformed an organization, but it's performing. And so
Yes.
there's real meat in that.
Yes, look, if you pick up, I did not go through all of the elements of our strategy, but we had a 5-year goal there, and in 5 years, we said in 5 years we want to double the size of our business, both in terms of number of people, in terms of profits, but also we said we want to be the leading ICT company when it comes to shareholder returns. Uh, and we were able to do that by year 2. Already in year 2 we were the best company, and in year 3 we're number 2. In ICT. ICT includes telcos, it includes everybody else. The reason why I'm saying this is that it did not happen on its own. It was a deliberate thing. It's very important to set up those goals. Some of them may be stretch goals, but once people are clear and why we're doing what we're doing, people will go for them, and things will happen. It's very, very important to do the planning upfront and share with the people and rally the teams behind you.
One of the things I realized is that you're so calm and collective, and I can see that planning gets. I think a lot of leaders are looking at what's happening currently, and some are possibly panicking. And I think that's why this event for me is so important. That we try and keep to our long-term vision as well, and try and engaging with someone like yourself. So we got the first part, which is your 300% improvement in performance. It starts with, most people call it an audacious goal, to go from where you were to really do that quickly. But this is not your first ride. This is not an organization, the first one that you've transformed in a meaningful way. And there's two others.
Maybe, Ralph, let me just come in here. It's probably not the most attractive company. Why would a person leave an MTN and come and join a company that's making losses?
Microsoft.
Why? Unless maybe it's being pushed from MTN. That's probably some of the thinking that people will have. But for me, this provided a great opportunity in many ways. It was a complex, very complex problem that we have. A problem where you have an entity that is making losses, an entity that is not relevant anymore to its customers, but an entity that is largely Afrikaner in terms of its culture, and yeah. So some people within it felt they were not included. These dimensions to it, and I just felt that is a great example of what we can do to take these entities, work with them instead of destroying them, work with them and create an entity that will become, make the cake bigger instead of just divide, but grow the thing. As you grow the thing, you are creating spaces for people that previously have not been included, but you are bringing everybody, having a vision that includes everybody, not just one group, but everybody can see themselves. When we're talking about where we're going, they can see themselves, which is what concerns me when we sometimes talk about our country. when we're listening to some of our leaders, when we're talking about our country and they talk about our people, does our people include everybody? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily do people think that it includes everybody? Or when people are saying our people, some groups within South Africa feel like they are excluded out of that word. And if it maybe it's the right time for me to start thinking about going elsewhere, So this is what I mean by having a vision where people feel that they are needed around here. They may have been part of the problem in the past, but their expertise are required to help solve the current problem. And that is what we need when we go to these organizations. As we transform, let us not do exactly the opposite of what we're trying to transform. Hence, I use the word Bantustan. Our job is not to create Bantustans. Our job is to create organizations where everybody can feel like they are part and parcel of those entities.
I mean, you mentioned something to me before. I remember you said when you take over an organization, you must demonstrate and put proof in the pudding, and then you can start asking for things from different people. And let's demonstrate success, and then we can start asking for things. And I think it was reference to a new office.
This is so important, Ralph. You stand in front of the people there saying that what is you just arrive in this business, and the people are looking up to you as the leader, looking for direction. And you say, I know this particular conference is about transformation, and you stand up there as a leader and say that my priority is transformation. This is so important. Transformation has to be done. But think about how other people who are listening and hearing that, what are they hearing? Are they hearing what you are truly meaning, or they're hearing something completely different? They are hearing that I'm not part of this. Clearly, transformation, there's no future for me. Then what does that person do? That person goes up and puts all of their energy into blocking things, into undermining things, because you have lost them from the word go. So what I'm saying is that create the spaces, create a vision that is inclusive, but deliver first. Deliver the results of the entity. What is the entity about? Grow the business. As you grow the business, you earn the right to nobody's going to be asking you anything. I've changed the values. I've changed many things, largely because we are doing. We're delivering the results. You can transform and then not have a company in 6 months' time. Everybody's gone under. Who has benefited there? So it is very, very important that we need to put the priorities right.
And I remember when you were at MTN, and let's not forget that when you first joined them, they had massive challenges. They had a union that was striking, and that at the time when you took over, there was some severe situations. And I remember that within the space of a couple of days, from something that had been transforming for weeks and months, within a couple of days, you reached out, you spoke to the unions, and you settled them. Number one. The other one was Microsoft. When you were at Microsoft, the thinking at the time was around open sourcing and how Microsoft was seen as a big multinational and not relevant in South Africa. And again, you showed your investment in South Africa in those enterprises. So, I mean, how important is that? It's not just your employees, it's your stakeholders, it's the people at large, your customers, the society at whole.
Human beings, there's one thing that we all want as human beings. We want to be heard. Yes, maybe the top priority is we want love and be loved. We want to love and be loved. But the second next important priority that human beings want, what we are yearning for, we want to be heard. Because that process of, if somebody is listening to you, it shows that I can see you. I respect you. I can see that you exist. If now we've got all of these stakeholders, in this case of MTN, the stakeholders there were both employees that were out there on strike. These are important stakeholders that we need to engage and listen to. The other stakeholder was a union, And if your strategy is to say that I'm not going to be talking to them, clearly there's not going to be any movement, And it was not magic. There's no magic. It was really about listening and listening. And only you then realize that actually none of them wanted the strike. We all actually want the same. They want to go back, So it's these small things that we really do need to start to put ourselves, be empathetic in the way we lead, listening to others. It's not about Mteto or what. It's just these are basic things that we should be, how we handle things. Same thing with companies, transforming them. We go and engage consultants, hire them at high, paying them a fortune. But the first thing that they come do is to go and talk to your employees to figure out what the problems are. But why don't you just go and listen to the employees, and talk to them yourself? Why do you outsource this thing to consultants?
Do you think it's because of your humble, upbringing? Do you think it's because of that you feel connected to people? I mean,
I don't know. How do you know my upbringing was humble? No, I'm joking. I don't know. I think the key, the problem most of the time is that we have an ego, as human beings, big egos, and I know that I don't know a lot, So I go and listen to people and factor their thinking, because who is the best to help me understand where we are failing our customers than the people that are serving those customers on a daily basis. So if I'm not listening to that person, where will I get this insight to try and serve those customers better? So it is that helps me to say, no, I need to include their thinking in the process.
So, I mean, a lot of people are sort of blaming different groups. I see different organizations. It seems to be a lot of finger pointing, and certainly we're sort of asking ourselves, what can government do or not do? Must they change laws, adapt laws? And what you've said earlier is that you worked within the laws of every country that you operate. Is this a government thing that we need to look at? Is this a business thing? Is this a leadership thing? Is this how do we move the needle like what you've done at Altron?
So the reason why I took this project, I call it a project, is to show that we can do something like this at a national level too. We need to bring people together, and if we bring people together, have a very clear vision, we can. It's like a microcosm of what we can do. Here you have an entity that was serving only a specific group of people in terms of interest. Now it is serving everybody. Are we perfect? No, we still have a long way to go, but we are much better than where we were. So we've got an entity that is serving everybody. How can we take that thinking and move it to a country level, bring everybody, bring the expertise of let's grow the economy? That thinking, let's not look at each other as enemies. That's another problem. Here you have a government that is trying to save lives, right? We are very focused on saving lives, and we need to save lives. But there's also an issue of livelihood, right? And typically it's business that are thinking about the livelihood part, And my view is that why assume that business cannot also think about lives? Because without the employees of your company, there's no company. So the lives are as important is even more important to business, because if without them, you just do not have a business. So don't treat business as if they are an enemy. We've got so much shared interest to protecting those lives.
Yeah.
So let's start from that shared understanding. The issue is we always think that we are in opposite ends, when in reality, if you look deeper, we're actually having so much in common.
Yeah. I mean, I look at what you've done in terms of businesses and organizations as a project, and I can't help but wonder, or inspired, is public service a project for you?
No, I don't think it's something that I want to. I can help, I can guide, like I'm doing now. I'm working with so many like in PPGI. I'm helping there. That's what I can do. I think I would be very frustrated, honestly, because yeah, no, it's not something that would talk to me. No.
How can businesses like yours and leaders like you, how do you see we can contribute to sort of government's planning? Because I do feel that they're looking at things from their view, which is obviously important, but bringing that collaboration, bringing other people's viewpoints who are touching the economy, the livelihoods of the workers within our country. How do we create more of a platform around and conversation and help them? Because it seems that that's needed.
The countries that have been very successful, some of those countries, only 40 years ago, they were behind South Africa. Only 40 years ago. Now they are actually classified as developed countries. Korea, some of the countries in South Asia, these countries, what is the template? What is it that they did? They had a national agenda. They had a very clear agenda of growing the economy, and they had the various stakeholders working together around that national agenda. In our case, there is so much polarization. When I'm coming from business, I'm already classified as an enemy. When I'm in business and looking at government, I'm thinking incompetence. That's nonsense. It cannot be like that. We've got great people on all sides. Let's work together. Our objective is our country. That is what we need to be focusing on South Africa, and how to create this, make it a bigger cake. And the best way of doing it up until now, I don't know of any other way than a capitalism, having a business that is strong. You can tax, you as government can tax, then take those taxes and use it socially to uplift communities. That's what works now. Once we can find something else that works better than that, let's go get that and use it. But for now, this is what works. Let's not kill business. Let's not frustrate business. Create opportunities for business to prosper. There is so much mistrust right now. As a result, we are unable to come up with this national agenda.
We've got one, but we keep on sort of missing each other on it. I think it's the one thing. But I mean, let's talk about businesses that are transforming, and let's say they got some audacious goals right now that they're looking to implement. How much will that be doused down because of COVID right now? I mean, is it still important to have those audacious goals? Do you need to have some level of realism, or is it a wait and see until things change? What's your advice?
For us, it's not wait and see. For us, it's acceleration of our strategy. We identified way up then the 4 growth areas for our company. Then you look at the acquisitions that we've made over the last 3.5 years. All of those acquisitions are linked to the growth strategies or the growth areas that we identified way back then. So now it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to do even more of that. When some of the assets that we see are struggling, it's an opportunity for us to pick up those assets, bring them into the Altron fold, and they will help us to be able to serve better our customers. As more and more people move into the cloud, like now we're doing this via a virtual thing. That is good business for companies like us. So we need to strengthen our capabilities into this digital space, and that's what we are doing, looking for assets that we can bring into the fold and help us to better serve our customers.
I don't want to leave before we get some of the questions. And obviously, Dali's asked a quite important question. I think you've answered some of it, but he said that the perceived inherent tension between organised labour and the employer. How did you win organised labour to buy into the long-term strategy of Altron and manage to keep them on board?
I think once you start looking here, you have an entity. This entity is making losses. So what's the logical thing that's going to likely happen to that entity?
Retrenchment.
It's either retrenchment or it's going to shut the organization down, right? So it's an issue of survival. So now you both now have a common ground. Say, how do we make sure that this entity continues to exist? How do we make sure that it continues to exist? And we then start to make on all sides some sacrifices to protect this entity, to make sure that it continues to survive, and then it can continue to grow. You know, we were sitting at about maybe at that time 6,500 employees. Now we've got almost 8,500 employees. We have grown. You know, we have grown the company. So, and in the process of growing the company, we have also changed the demographics of the company. So we didn't just save an entity and protect those jobs. We have created even more jobs. You know, but it starts from having that honest conversation with these possible enemies, but they're not. You're actually having so much things that you share. You want to save, to protect jobs. That's what you both want. You know, it's the same thing right now on COVID-19 when we made a decision to roll back salary increases that we have made in March. We had to roll back all of those salary increases. You know, and if we had just said, okay, we're rolling back all of those, you know, they needed to. Hence, we as leaders had to demonstrate by forfeiting 50% of our bonuses. But we kept their bonuses, the rest of the staff. They were paid 100% there. But us as leaders, because we can, you know, because we had to contribute even more. So fairness does not mean we all have to be doing the same thing. You know, it's fair that people who can do more must contribute more in terms of sacrifice. So this is what we did. And when now we're having a conversation about rolling back the salaries, when people understand that, hey, these people have already made, also it's understandable. So they're able, they do not like it, but they understand it because we're trying to do it for the benefit of the company, you know, and we're protecting the company. That is what matters, you know, being transparent, being honest, and just share stuff. And the more you share and treat people as the adults that they are, and they will understand.
For sure. And I mean, it seems to me that there's a level of trust that you've built up as well in that internally and externally. How important is that? Because when you, it seems when you have that conversation, you've built the trust up with your employees, with other stakeholders. You've built a reputation. I mean, you talk about building a reputation for the company, but it's a leader that also needs to start with that. Is that correct?
Yes. Look, it starts with you. You know, somebody has to take a risk here. And people, you're coming into the company, you're standing there, you're saying all of these things. They don't know. Then the next thing is you surround yourself. They look at your first appointments, the people that he has appointed. He's saying that we are creating a company that should be, you know, everybody must feel like they are part of this company. Then they look, okay, the first 3 appointments that he has made, all of them are Xhosas coming from the Eastern Cape and coming from his village. Okay, but he's standing up there, he's saying that we are creating a company that is all of us. So already you have lost it. You know, so people are looking. So those early decisions, as you're coming into the environment, you need to be very careful about what you do. It needs to be consistent with what you're saying. That's how you gain the trust. Yeah.
And I mean, how do you see the future for Africa? Because this is a dialogue, not just South Africa. This is an African dialogue. And I know that when we spoke initially, you international, you're in Indonesia and a couple of other countries. But how do you see the future for Africa and organizations?
Look, we are sitting in a difficult situation in the sense that most of the countries that we're competing with, they've invested significantly on STEM capabilities, science, technology, engineering, and maths. You know, their education systems have invested in that, and in the process have helped those countries to develop. That's a problem for us. That's an area that we need to address, education. That's why I'm happy that this conference is focusing on skills development and education. Because without that foundation, we are going to be we're continuing to be behind. But the next thing is, let's not try and leapfrog, or those are kind of words that we're using. Let's use fourth industrial revolution to live. No, let's not even try and leapfrog anybody. Let us try and look at the problems that our country is facing. What are the problems around us? How can we address those problems? How can we make money out of addressing those problems? I look at a company like Capitec. Capitec is an entity that is formed maybe not more than 15 years ago. And they entered an environment that has got very, very strong competitors, Standard Bank, FNB, very strong.
Yeah.
But the Capitec guys didn't say, can you please, government, who is the Minister of Trade and Industry, can you please create a space for us to come in? We cannot compete with these big players. They did not say that. They looked at what is it that these big players are not serving. What is it that they are not delivering to the customers? Yeah. And let's package something that will be different so that people will be attracted to us. Now, 15 years later, you've got a Capitec that is threatening these large entities. Yeah. And they are serving what? I think they are largely serving a black problem. And that black problem could have been solved. Who is the best to solve a black problem? Is somebody that understands that it should be us. I'm just saying. Now here is being served by others. So I'm saying there are so many of these opportunities that are around us. Yeah. We need to keep finding ways of addressing these things, coming up with innovative ways of addressing them. Yeah. Whilst in the process, of course, generating businesses out of solving those problems.
How do we shift people's mindsets to have your sort of mindset, which is about inclusiveness, I think, which is about looking at what we do have, not what we don't have. How do we do that? Because I think that's what you're trying to say, is that it's now we need to shift gears a little bit.
I think we need to do that by like this, like now we're talking, but by demonstrating that it works.
Okay.
By demonstrating that these things, because you can talk and talk and talk. If there's no, you cannot point to something, then what's the point of the whole thing? Yeah. By making sure that we have people that we continuously talk about them and find a critical mass of people that can demonstrate that this thing works. Look at the Mandela, that whole transformation of our country. It was all about the inclusiveness. It's about working with others, and that's where we need to go back. If we are lost, let's go back to that point. Let's go back to our constitution, which says that South Africa belongs to all who live in it. It's not saying only those that have got a pointed nose. No, it's all who live in it. That if we are lost, let's go back there. And that's what leaders, both in government, religious leaders, and leaders in labor, we should be saying the same thing. Yeah. We are creating the kind of society that we're trying to create, a society where everybody can contribute. And also, let's not create a society of takers. By that I mean, there are people that are healthy today, but they are living on grants. And we may think that this is a great thing, that hey, we've got maybe million people that we are supporting through grant, but we're creating the people who are dependent. You can do the same thing, but let those people earn that. You know, we've got townships that are dirty, right? Townships, maybe at the end of the month, if you have demonstrated that you have done X, Y, Z, then you can get this grant. It's not free of things. So you are creating the culture of doing something before you get, you know. Yeah. So in any case, so those are some of my thoughts.
Well, I want to thank you. We've gone way over time. Thank you so much. I know you're very busy. We're going to send this out to our different programs. So thanks so much for your time, and all the best for the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Bye.